Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever episode of the R&D Sports Report. My name is Dishman, and I am joined, as I will always be, by Riley. Riley, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. So, what we're going to try to do here is to bring you a perspective on the biggest stories in sports. To be able to give you just our perspectives as fans. Now, what you may notice is that between Riley and I, there is a little bit of an age difference.
Yep, totally.
But we are hoping that difference is going to be able to explain things kind of from our different perspectives, our different lifestyles, our different ways of life. And so we're really excited to do this, and we're going to jump in each time. We're going to just talk about kind of the biggest things that have happened. We're going to typically try to record these things on Mondays and Wednesdays. So whatever's happened over the weekend on Mondays, we will always be recapping as the things unfold. But one of the biggest stories that is taking place right now, Riley, is the Michigan State issue. It all starts with Larry Nassar being sentenced, being convicted of sexual assault on the USA Gymnastics team. But now it has bled over to Michigan State. We've seen the president step down from Michigan State, and we have seen the athletic director now resign. Now, there are people out there calling for Tom Izzo and Mike D'Antoni, the head men's basketball coach and the head football coach, to resign. Now, do you think that they should actually resign right now, even if we don't know all the facts?
No, not really, because I feel like without facts, I don't know. I feel like you should let them finish out the season, and I mean that's like with Rick Pitino. I feel like, they instantly kicked him out. I know that was on different allegations, but I feel like you should just let him finish out the season, especially with what they just got right now for evidence wise, But I feel like they don't have enough evidence to fully make them leave instantly.
Okay, so Outside the Lines over the weekend did a report and did state that Izzo knew, that D'Antonio knew. They had some a lady who had been sexually assaulted, that she carried this burden with her. She was afraid to tell anybody, and it ended up actually costing her life, and her parents found it in a note. Now, in not only just that instance, but these other instances where we see, right, these ladies are making the allegation right now, and we only say allegation not because we don't believe, but because it is supposed to be, right, innocent until proven guilty. Right now, these are still allegations. These are still just things that are being made against these two coaches. But it is being alleged that his name, it just escaped me, Tom Izzo, that he is said to have covered up some of these sexual assaults. Now, some people are calling for him to be fired immediately, to resign immediately. But we also have a quote from Magic Johnson that he had put out. And in this quote, he says, and I quote here Magic Johnson, a message that he tweeted on Monday. So today when we're recording, he said if anyone was aware of the sexual assault happening to women on the MSU campus, Michigan State, from the office of the president, comma, board of trustees, comma, athletic department, comma, facility, and campus police, and didn't say or do anything about it, they should be fired.
Yeah, I would totally agree on that.
And so with that comment from Magic Johnson, right? That's one of their most known, their biggest alumni, right?
Exactly. I mean, he's a legend in the NBA. Come on now.
But here we have him saying, right, if anybody knew, right? And he is good friends with Tom Izzo.
Exactly.
And that's been documented. He gives money to the school. He loves his school, right? He won a national championship with them.
Right.
But he's even saying, if Izzo knew, if D'Antonio knew, they should be fired. Do you agree? Or even if they knew at all, they covered it up, right? Because in that, he says, if they knew, right? If they were aware even if someone... Right, if somebody had made them aware of this situation and they didn't do anything, they should be fired. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I feel like that's hiding something so big like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a definite fire.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it says a lot that it's someone as prominent as a Magic Johnson would come out and say this.
Right.
You know, he's not hiding behind this fact. He's not trying to just stand up. He's not trying to protect the brand overall, right? He's saying, if this happened at my university, at the university that I am an alumni of, pretty much, I don't care who it is.
Just step forward.
But they also need to be fired, right?
Right.
Even if you knew anything, right? If you were just slightly aware... And, you know, he talks about the president, right? The president has resigned. Board of trustees, there are some that are calling for the board of trustees, right, to pretty much resign, to leave. There are also people calling, the athletic director just recently stepped down, resigned. All that stemming from this Larry Nassar case, right? And Larry Nassar was sentenced to 175 years in prison for sexually abusing more than 140 underage girls during his time at the school, right? And at Michigan State, he was the lead sports physician, and as a doctor for the U.S. gymnastics. But, right, and it all stems, and so this is that Pandora's box opening. But it is a good Pandora's box to open, right? To shed light on this, right? To try and make this so it never happens again, right?
Right.
You have a sister.
Yeah.
Right? And just try to imagine if she was one of these people, right, involved in this. And it's a hard thing to deal with. And many women, they don't want to come forward, right? Because they're ashamed. They don't think anybody might believe them,
right?
And some that will just they just try to hide it because they don't want to relive it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where they do that because that's a life experience that that you don't want to go through.
And that's the sad thing is that our society's almost made it, right? So it is kind of that way, right?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
But in a outside the lines report, as we talked about earlier, right? In that report, in the outside lines report said a pattern of widespread denial, inaction, and information suppression. Right? I remember watching the outside lines report when it came on ESPN, and in that they talked about, right, the fact that Michigan State was one of the hardest universities that they had dealt with, right? To try to get information, right? Everything was suppressed. Everything was just taken around so that they could just it almost seems like it's a giant cover-up.
Well, more of, closed off. I could see where, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're huge, but a school that's so big like that is, I mean, it would be hard to uncover something.
Right. It would be hard to uncover something sometimes, but at the same time, right? A lot of universities, when something like this would happen, right? You would want to get to the bottom of this. You would want to find out who exactly, right, is at fault here.
Right. Exactly.
But with all this, you have the Attorney General for the state of Michigan, right? Michigan State is a public institution, and he is, in fact, launching his own investigation into this. And it is something that I think is probably long overdue for the school.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that.
Because we kind of see that there might be a pattern of cover-up here.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with Magic Johnson. If anybody knew, if anybody was even aware that this, and they didn't say anything, they didn't do anything, they need to be fired.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
That is just uncalled for and
utterly ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But this story is something that has been talked about over and over again. So we don't really want to just keep harping on this.
Right.
I know I feel terrible that someone would have to go through this.
Yeah.
That anybody should ever have to face this, and to even think that they would have to, right, hide themselves. Yeah. It is something that I find ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean that can hurt your life overall. So I mean it's just ridiculous. Every time I go back to look at it, it's just hard to imagine what those ladies went through.
But it's also, I think, something that is seen here in our culture, right? It is something that, right, it's kind of passed through our culture. Well, don't say anything because you don't know.
Right.
And sometimes it just takes that one. And really with the Larry Nassar incident, right, it just took one, and then it snowballs. And unfortunately, right, all those girls had to face it in some form or fashion that they were sexually abused, right? And whatever that form or fashion is, it's inexcusable. It is absolutely ridiculous for that to happen.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just hard to talk about, even as a fan.
It's something that hopefully out of this dark time, right, there are better days ahead, right? We become better, and not only just as a society, and I don't want to sound like my head's in the clouds, right?
Right.
But that we are more conscious of it. The girls don't feel that they have to, right, hide from this, and it's something that's not just girls, right?
Right.
It is something that can also be boys as well.
Oh yeah.
But I think some of the fear of accusing people kind of comes from that whole Duke lacrosse incident where the girls are accused, but
yeah,
the players were found innocent, and basically the girls were kind of making this whole thing up.
Right.
And so I think it leads to some girls not wanting to come forward because they don't want to be viewed as the same girls like that.
Right.
But I can only say our thoughts and prayers, right, are with these girls that had to go through this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I cannot imagine having to go through this.
No, me neither.
And even as a parent, I can't imagine having to hear about this from your child, right?
I would be so disappointed. I know I'm young, but as a parent, I would definitely be disappointed.
And it's something that, as that parent, right, you want that person to pay. Right. And that person in this instant is Larry Nassar, and he's going to pay, and that is a great thing. because he needs to pay for the things that he has done to these girls.
Right. Great deal of justice.
And so not to continue just to kind of beat this horse, so to speak, but just kind of move on to another a topic that happened recently, that Vince McMahon is bringing the XFL back.
Let's go, baby.
Okay, so are we excited that this is happening?
Heck yeah.
Is it because we just love the XFL so much, or is it because it's another alternative kind of to the NFL?
See, I never got to watch the XFL. As being a young man, I never got to watch the XFL. So it was definitely something interesting that I'm ready to watch. So I'm ready. Bring it on.
It is something that I think can kind of be different.
Oh yeah.
It is very different though from the first time he launched it. Right? He says there's no gimmicks in this one. Right, and that's kind of what almost the original XFL was about. These gimmicks.
Right.
Right. He was heavily tied to WWE. He says that these are two separate entities. These are going to be two separate things apart from one another.
Right.
And I think that is probably the best move.
But
agree. I think also the other move that is great for him is that it's not coming back until 2020.
Yeah, that gives him enough time to plan out what he's going to do and what he thinks is going to work for the XFL.
And he talked that he's going to hire some people that really know what they're doing. Last time when the XFL happened, right, it was something that was a very spur of the moment. It was very quick.
Right.
And so now he's given himself the remainder of 2018. He's given himself all of 2019, and presumably going to launch. He said it not so much a spring league, but that it will launch at the kind of the end of January. So we're in this playoff time for the NFL, and here the XFL is going to try to come in and take from January on into the spring a little bit.
I'm excited, to be honest. I really am, because I never got to watch it. I wouldn't say that I didn't hear of it, but I wasn't like informed on it until recently, and I got to catch up on some research, and it sounds very fun and very exciting to watch.
The only kind of downside I see to this XFL is that the original thing, it was the gimmicks. It
right.
was gimmicks to make this. It was the hard hitting, smash mouth, trash talking football.
Yeah.
And Vince was at the center of it, and he says in this that he's not going to be at the center of this version of the XFL.
Right.
But he's one of those guys that I think he realizes the first time kind of was a screw up, and
right.
he seems like one of those guys, he doesn't want to fail. So I imagine this time it should be a little bit better quality football.
Right.
The question is, where do these players come from?
I don't really know. That's one question that I really have in my head right now. I'm just kind of interested in seeing what happens.
Are these players going to be former NFL players that couldn't quite cut it, right? Are they really good college players that couldn't make it in the NFL either? He also said that Johnny Manziel, Johnny Manziel's not going to be in the XFL, but he wants to have high character players in the XFL. And I think on that standpoint, it's great because you want them to be of character. And he says that each player, is going to be given a handbook and to know what's expected of them.
Right. So kind of like a guideline.
Right, exactly. And to tell them, look, if you do this, if you do that, right, he says that they all will stand for the national anthem. And I would imagine in that book, right, in that kind of playbook, so to speak, in that rules book of, you are now an XFL player, it'll say something about standing for the national anthem.
I'm glad that he's making them do that, to be honest.
Now, not to get into that whole debate really on this first episode, but
Right.
It is something that I think the excitement is kind of there. When these rumors were out that he would be restarting the XFL, I think a lot of people went crazy. Right? It's something that a lot of people, for some reason, I think that 30 for 30 that they did, right, on the XFL that ESPN did, I think that's something that really got people kind of energized for it to come back.
Right.
But I also think that the national anthem protesting and all that's gone on with the NFL, right, it has played a role in people wanting another option.
Right.
Wanting something different. Plenty of people said, I'm not watching the NFL, and that's their choice.
Right. Opinion.
And, we're coming up on the Super Bowl getting ready to happen, the Patriots and the Eagles. But for the NFL, right, it's this big giant. The XFL is trying to restart it. He said it will have 8 teams. The cities haven't even been thought of, so in these next couple years, the cities, I would imagine, will be announced.
Right.
He said it will help if a team kind of does already have an NFL-type stadium. So, you look at a city like San Diego. Right, they just lost their Chargers to Los Angeles.
Right.
You would think that would be a pretty good market, and I would imagine the people there would be pining for another football team.
Oh yeah.
And so, with that, it just all 8 teams will be owned by the league, right? So pretty much Vince McMahon will own all the NFL teams,
right?
Or all the XFL teams. I'm sorry, and they will play a 10-game season. So you're starting in probably toward the end of January, maybe even the last week of January, and you're going through right at the first part of March. So for him, I think that might really help, especially you get this time with like the Pro Bowl week for the NFL.
Oh yeah,
to come in, because I don't know a whole lot of people who really watch the Pro Bowl, who really care, right? The Pro Bowl was on this past Sunday. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
No.
Do you care about the Pro Bowl and to watch it at all?
Not really. I'm not really interested in it, to be honest.
And I think that's a sentiment for a lot of people, right? They're not interested in something like the Pro Bowl. So to have that alternative, and now we're not saying that the games are all going to be played on a Sunday, and
right, all that jazz. Yeah,
we don't know that yet. This is just at the
we still got
stage.
2 years to talk about it. So
right, and as more comes out, we'll probably talk about it here and there. But that was kind of the big announcement, so to speak, from this weekend. But another thing that happened big when we talk about big, right? The New Orleans Pelicans, right? They use the hashtag doing it big.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, not Boogie.
They lose their star center, right?
Yeah.
Their all-star center, matter of fact.
Yeah, sadly.
Having his best career.
Right.
Right, his best career year.
Yeah.
He's averaging over 25 points and 10 rebounds.
He's gotten so better coming from the Kings to the Pelicans. I feel like he has improved a lot.
I think it helps to have a guy like Anthony Davis, right? And it even helped Anthony Davis, because you can't focus just on Anthony Davis. Then you now have to pay attention to DeMarcus Cousins.
Exactly.
Which is a guy who can dribble, he can shoot the three, and he can go bang down low.
So pretty much an all-around center, but better as all-around.
Exactly. And
he's really good.
He is good. And I think this is going to be something that might actually hurt them.
I can agree with that.
I think... if I'm remembering correctly, when he went down, they were on a 4-game winning streak, right? They still even won that game when he goes down. And it's not that he goes down at the beginning of the game even.
Right.
He goes down at the end.
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, right? Really?
And as soon as you see it, you can see you can't put any weight on that foot. You can see the fact, right, that it's really bothering him, and you know something's really wrong.
Right.
And so to lose him to an Achilles injury is devastating.
And as such as late of the season. I mean, it's getting to,
right. We're getting right around the All-Star break.
Exactly.
He was getting ready to compete. Him and Anthony Davis are going to be on a team.
Right.
Team LeBron. And he was even going to be reunited with his old college buddy, John Wall, right? John Wall as a reserve.
Sorry, Boogie.
and so
Dang.
it just, for the Pelicans, it sucks.
It really does.
There's really no other word to put it into. It sucks.
It really does.
And so, with that, right, they were just finding their groove. Because right around a year ago, right, he was traded to the Pelicans.
Oh, yeah.
And no one expected instant success from the Pelicans. Now, in this world, right, of instant gratification, we all expected, they're going to click in the first game.
Well, I mean, that's like the OKC Thunder.
Right, they
you would think with Carmelo, PG, and Russ, you would think that they would be unstoppable. Sorry. I just read a funny post that my dad sent me. Sorry about that. But, you would think that they would be unstoppable. But no, they it definitely took a little time for them to get back on their game and start winning a few.
Well, I think it took more time than a group like a LeBron James, a Dwayne Wade, and a Chris Bosh, right? When they all meet up in Miami. Now, granted, Dwayne Wade was already there,
right?
But when they all meet up in Miami, right, they're not all interior players, right? You have a guy in DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, two big men, a center and a power forward, essentially. It's going to take some time to figure that out, and I think it also took time for them to be able to figure out how to play, like the speed at which, right? Because with two big men, you can't go running up and down the court, right?
Exactly.
We see the Wizards, or not the Wizards, the Warriors do this all the time, right? They're going, Steph's throwing up a three, Klay Thompson's throwing up a three.
Then you got Kevin. I mean,
right, Kevin Durant's throwing up threes.
So many things going on. It's just so fast paced.
And you've got Draymond Green, right? A lot of times playing that 4 spot, and even sometimes playing the 5, right? It's a fast pace. It's going back and forth, and when you have two big men, you can't do that. They're going to get tired.
Right.
But I think it was really starting to groove.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'd won like 7 out of the last 8 upon losing him. They had, won 4 in a row. They were both set for the All-Star game. And I think not only did it take time, but you get a point guard in, like a Rajon Rondo, to be able to play that point guard and be able to move Drew Holiday over to the shooting guard, right? Not only did you have DeMarcus Cousins coming in last year, but you also had a lot of change in the offseason, bringing some other people in.
Oh, yeah.
So, with all that said, it does take time.
It really does.
And they were just finding their groove, I think.
I know, and it sucks so badly.
Well, and I think they could have been a force, right, in the playoffs, and they still could be, but you had such a different roster with two big men, right? Nobody plays two big men anymore.
Right.
It's all this fast pace, throw up the threes. We're going to maybe go small if we have to.
Right. Speaking of two big men, I heard that Blake Griffin recently got traded to the Pistons, and I'm thinking that Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin can be a good match, but I'm not too sure yet.
Oh, that did happen tonight. I did see that. That Blake Griffin gets traded to the Detroit Pistons.
It's amazing.
Right? But we'll get into that here in a second, but do the Pelicans still make the playoffs?
I would say they would get a couple rounds in, and I feel like they can be a force still, even though Boogie is out.
So you think they make it to just the second round?
Yeah, and I think they'll get stopped there.
Okay, I would say they probably still make the playoffs.
Right.
I think if they get out of the first round, it might take them 7 games.
Yeah.
I do think when you had Boogie there, you could easily have, made a good run. Now, I don't think they were really still anything for the Warriors, but they were a different team. They could have easily probably taken out the Rockets.
I'll look at it as like a pick. You set a pick, you get stopped instantly, and it's like, oh, wait, he just knocked me out. I got to get back up real quick. And I feel like, the Pelicans were a pick, and I feel like, they could have, with Boogie, I felt like they could have gone even past the second round, but I don't really know yet.
And I think there probably was a good chance for them to even get to the Western Conference Finals, right?
Right.
As we talked, they were just finding their groove. They seemed to really be figuring things out. There were reports that they were just about to try and trade, right? The trade deadline's coming up soon. That they're about to try to trade and get another wing player to get another shooter in there to kind of take some of that focus away from DeMarcus and Anthony, right? Both averaging over 25 and 10 on the season.
It was ridiculous.
Which is just mind-blowing.
Right.
But you suffer this loss, and I don't think it's the end of the Pelicans season.
No.
But also it bleeds into the fact DeMarcus Cousins is a free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah, that's what's got us a little hyped to see what happens. I feel like the Pelicans will try to get him again.
Oh, there's no doubt they'll try to get him.
Oh, yeah.
But can they keep him?
Right. That's the real question. Where would he go, though, even if the Pelicans didn't grab him again?
Well, I don't know even if he would have really gone anywhere, and now I think it might hurt his free agency status a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think a whole lot, but the problem is you have to figure out how well he's going to recover from this.
Right.
And how well he's going to come back, and nobody knows that until he does. This injury could be a 6 to 10 month recovery time.
Oh, yeah. It's going to take a long time for him to get back on his feet. No pun intended.
But even if he does come back to the Pelicans, right?
Right.
You've still got Anthony Davis and
Rajon. You still got good players to help you get good in the in the playoffs.
You still honestly have really good players, but the biggest problem is going to be is that then if he comes back, say it takes him a little longer, it's this time next year he comes back. Now they're going to have to get reacquainted again with each other,
right,
with that playing style. But if we go at the 10 months, you're talking. Right at the end of November, into December, you've gotten into the NBA season a little bit. But it still could take him to get back into Boogie form, the form we see him in this year.
Right.
It could be a couple seasons down the road.
Yeah, and it's sad to hear that. It really is.
Just in the prime of his career, really starting to hit his stride.
He was finally getting in the groove, and then
his services would have been remarkably required by other teams, right? A bunch of teams would have been after him,
right?
And there was talk that the Pelicans might trade him so they don't lose out on him. They don't lose too much where they traded for him last year,
right?
But I think the Pelicans wanted to keep him.
I can agree with that. The way they were playing, I could see why.
And I also think that I think he liked it in New Orleans.
I do too. I felt like he was comfortable there. I felt like he knew what he was doing. He was determined to get better. And, with Anthony Davis by his side, I felt like, they were kind of unstoppable.
Well, I think it also takes the pressure off of him.
Exactly.
He had all that pressure in Sacramento. Sacramento, was crap for years. Wouldn't really ever put anybody around him, and it was always, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy. And I think we see, he's been pretty kind of calm this year.
I was going to say, he's been pretty good and pretty exciting to watch.
But, we move from the DeMarcus Cousins and we, the all-star lineups, right? Originally, Paul George is a snub.
Right.
Which, I find ridiculous. But that's also what happens when people like the Warriors, right? To get 4 players in back-to-back years. You have Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond, and Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, do we at some point go, well, they may be having a really good year just because of the players they're playing with?
I don't know how to say this, but I feel like with Kevin, Klay, and Draymond, many other players, even Iguodala, that team is so good, and I feel like even with the the Cavs, they're not doing so well this year, and I feel like
the Cavs so far are a hot dumpster fire, right?
Pretty much.
And it doesn't help with speculation that LeBron's going to leave after the end of this year.
You think he will?
I don't know.
I say he does, but at the same time, where
I
would
also
he go?
I don't think he does. He wouldn't want to go to like the Lakers, right? That's why when he came back to Cleveland after being in Miami for those few years, right? He doesn't want an Andrew Wiggins, a first pick, the number 1 pick overall.
Right.
He wanted somebody like a Kevin Love, an established player in the league.
Right, knew what he was doing.
But you look at a team like the Lakers; they're young.
Right, so you would think that like LeBron going to the Lakers, it would help them. And
but see, here's the thing: who's going to play around him? Right? Is he really going to want to play with the second-year Lonzo Ball?
I feel like Lonzo's good enough to provide enough. I would say support for LeBron to help him, and I feel like Lonzo playing with LeBron, it would help him a lot to get better in the league and find out what he's really made of.
So, at the same time, the other comments have been, right, that the Lakers are just going to try to really stack up in the offseason, that the Lakers are going to get a Paul George and LeBron James.
Nah.
But now, as an OKC fan, right, do you think even Paul George might stay around, right? He just got, unfortunately for DeMarcus, right, having the injury, and I'm sure Paul doesn't, having had a severe injury himself. I'm pretty sure that that's not how he wanted to make the All-Star game.
Oh no, definitely not.
But it's undeniable, right? The season that they were having, and even in OKC, they kind of seem to be starting to find their groove.
Right.
Russ and Paul George working together now. Whether Carmelo Anthony stays there or not, it's different because there are reports that wasn't obviously one of his first choices for to waive his no trade clause, but then it
right,
he ended up waiving it. But in this whole free agency thing, right, it seems like Paul George kind of does enjoy. It helps him to come off of Russell Westbrook, right, and be able to play off of that.
Right.
And I do think it was just a shame that he didn't make the All-Star game originally. And I think it's awful that, unfortunately in the circumstances, he replaces DeMarcus Cousins and becomes an All-Star. But, at the same time, right, I thought he should have been one in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
But let's get to this breaking news that we had tonight. Right before we sat down to record this episode, we are gifted, right, with a huge story.
Oh, yeah.
That the Los Angeles Clippers are trading Blake Griffin to the Detroit Pistons.
Let's go. I'm so excited.
The Pistons receive Blake Griffin, right, is the report by Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, right, that the Pistons would receive Blake Griffin in exchange for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, which had been a name popping up that the Pistons were wanting to trade.
Right.
And you get a first-round pick, a projected first-round pick, and a 2019 second-round selection. You also get oh my goodness, I can't even say his name. I'm having a problem. But in this, right, the from Adrian Wojnarowski again, that the projections on the first round pick will be 2018 number 1 through 4, 2019 1 through 4, 2020 1 through 4, 21 would be an unprotected pick. So it may be the fact that the Clippers don't even get this pick until 2021.
Right.
But with this, right, Adrian Wojnarowski even says that the Clippers may not even be done, right? They just traded their all-star power forward, right? The superstar for their team. and they may not be done.
True.
It's reported that the Clippers are trying to pursue packages of young players and picks, right, for a player like a DeAndre Jordan, for a Lou Williams who's having a great year.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Clippers just blowing this thing up?
I feel like they're trying to start over in a sense of being like the Lakers and trying to get the young players in there to I just feel like they're trying to be another Laker. Like, does that make sense? Like,
well, I think what they're trying to do is they see, let's take, for example, the 76ers, right? It took them a few years to get back.
Oh, yeah.
But the 76ers are now coming into their own. They are starting to, as Joel Embiid always says, they're trusting the process.
Right.
But they they have this collection of young players, and it may take another year or so for them to really kind of move up in the Eastern Conference standings.
Right.
But, I mean, you look at them, they kind of blew it all up and kind of started over.
Right.
They took a different approach, and so I think the Clippers here that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get rid of the money, right, that these players are owed.
Oh, yeah.
They are trying to get these young players, right, that they're trying to pursue young players. They want young players and picks. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to start this over.
Well, even at that, I feel like they're trying to become another 76ers. Like, being, having that Ben Simmons and, that Joel Embiid. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're trying to start over and start fresh.
Oh, and probably for the Clippers, after Chris Paul leaves, right, that, we saw where Chris Paul and like Blake Griffin, it didn't work how they thought it would, right? It didn't produce this NBA title that everybody thought it would, the super team.
And I was sad it didn't work out, to be honest.
But, Chris Paul's on the Rockets now, and so I think after all that, we've seen that in years past that there are rumblings, Blake Griffin could be traded, but year after year he never got traded, and I thought the Clippers would try to build around him.
Right.
But at the same time, right, just I think you hit the reset button here.
Pretty much.
You try to take it back, and you try to now reset and get these young players in. It may take you a year or two to kind of get going.
Right.
But at least your fans can see the potential.
Yeah, but as a LA, Clippers fan, I'm not a Clippers fan, but I could, like, being one, like, if I was one, I would be, I wouldn't say sad, but I'd be disappointed, but I could see the potential that they could have to be the next 76ers and the next Lakers.
Okay, so, I mean, is it surprising, though, that a player like Blake Griffin would be traded, right? He signs a 5-year, $171.2 million contract extension with the Clippers.
Make it rain.
I mean, yeah, that I would love to have that problem, right?
Exactly.
To be able to have the problem of, I just signed a 5-year, $171 million contract, and
suckers,
and all of a sudden, I get traded, which it does suck because now they have to, uproot family, uproot himself, move to Michigan now, right? Weather's nice in L.A., Michigan, not always so much,
meh.
right? And so, I think they just said, all right, it's time to hit the reset button. It's
Pretty
time
much.
to restructure our roster. Let's get younger. Let's try to get some young talent. And so the big thing is now you have the Pistons, right? They have a Draymond Green, or not a Draymond Green, I'm sorry, Andre Drummond. And you have in that now, with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, you have Reggie Jackson there.
Yeah.
So the question is, can the Pistons, do you think, do anything in the East? Do they now become an instant threat that they've gotten Blake Griffin? Do they become a threat to dethrone the Cavaliers, to dethrone King James, and take that Eastern Conference Finals?
Yes and no. I feel like they need a lot more, I wouldn't say young talent, but a lot more talent, small forward and power forward wise. I feel like shooting guard and point guard and centers, I think that'd be fine. But with Blake Griffin coming in and helping Andre, I feel like Blake could play the power forward. That or Andre. Which one would you think would be best?
Well, Andre Drummond will play the center, and Blake Griffin probably the power forward.
Right.
But you still have a team in the Celtics, right, that are thought to be the favorite to win the East. But a lot of what you see now is that teams aren't just going to bow down to the Cavs.
Right.
We see the Cavs are struggling mightily.
Yeah, and I see LeBron literally yelling at his teammates, which I'm sure we'll get to that topic some other day. But with all this, is this going to force the hand of the Cavaliers? Now, it's been reported time and time again that there is interest for the Cavaliers to acquire a DeAndre Jordan or even Lou Williams. Right? Do you think they make that move? They have the number one pick that they got from Boston, that comes actually all the way from Brooklyn. But do you think they trade that pick? Do you think they hold on to it and try to get a good pick out of it to see what a LeBron James is going to do? Because the problem with Cleveland is, what do you do if LeBron leaves you? Right, exactly. All you got is Isaiah and who else do they got?
You've got Kevin Love there.
Right.
And you've got Tristan Thompson, who's J.R. Smith.
But I feel like, I wouldn't say that they're overrated, but I feel like they've been disappointing this year.
Well, for me, the Cavaliers are old.
Right.
They're old.
Oh yeah.
You have LeBron James. You have an old Dwayne Wade, who's not the Dwayne Wade of old.
No.
Now he can still go at times, but he's not like Dwayne Wade used to be.
No, he's not. He is definitely not the.
You have to think, though, he's also like, 3-4 years older than LeBron.
Oh, yeah.
They came in on the same draft class, but LeBron came out of high school. Dwayne Wade came out of Marquette.
I mean, when I heard that D. Wade got traded from the Heat to the Cavs, I was excited to see those two get back at it.
Well, Dwayne Wade didn't come. He came from the Bulls. Remember, he had that.
It's
almost so unforgettable hit. Right,
really
his time there at the Bulls was almost so bad that it's almost unforgettable. You just want to put him straight from the Heat to the Cavs, but he came from the Bulls.
I mean, to be honest,
they released him. I think it was.
To be honest, I really miss the old Heat with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. But back to what I was saying, I feel like they've been a letdown with Dwayne Wade. Not doing as well, and I feel like age is really a big problem here. I really do, because I
think that's one of their biggest problems.
Oh yeah.
Not only that, but also their lack of defense, for that matter.
Right.
Their defense, but that's also kind of what you get. Isaiah is a great scorer.
Yeah, but he not to hate on Isaiah because I love him, but he's just not tall enough to guard anybody.
Well, and that's the problem. If you can get him on a switch on a pick and roll, right? He then now.
He's pretty quick to go around
get
a layup in.
But still, you think of he's 5'9", and
right.
Most point guards at minimum are about 6 foot. That's 3 extra inches.
Right, and
3 extra inches to be able to get a shot off.
And I feel like if I was in Isaiah's spot, I would make sure that I'm the special one. I'm the one that is tiny, but I got some moves.
And that's the thing. And some people have said, the problem is that he's trying to shoot too much. He's trying to score too much. The other team's not getting involved. But at the same time, Jay Crowder is a good player. Right?
Oh, yeah.
He could be a good role player. But I think for them it just hurts. Isaiah is a great player.
Oh yeah, definitely.
To come from the last pick in the draft,
right?
To being on a team with LeBron James starting, and being someone, right, that when he was in Boston that he kind of led the Celtics, that he was that spark plug. Now I think the thing that also hurts him is he's not in that Brad Stevens offense that.
Right.
Let's get it offense. Let's get up and down the court, right. and we're gonna jack up some threes.
Right, be quick with it.
Right, but it'll be interesting to see. Does LeBron all of a sudden take over?
I do feel like he did take over for a couple of games.
But can he sustain that through like the playoffs to get him back to the NBA championship?
I'm just gonna throw this out there as a LeBron guy. I'm gonna say he's not gonna make the finals. I don't think he will unless.
So you think his streak ends?
Yes, I do say that his streak ends.
Do you think that the Cavaliers are going to really make a worthwhile deal, right? Because there are reports that they go out and get DeMarcus Cousins, they could trade that first pick that they had, that first round pick, thought to be maybe a top 3 pick, maybe even the number 1 overall pick from Brooklyn,
right?
But to be able to trade that pick and get a player like a DeMarcus Cousins, how well will that have worked? And now we obviously won't know because DeMarcus unfortunately has been injured and is out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But the Cavs not only have to think about this season, right? They have to put the best team together for this season to try to get back, right? Because that's the objective, really, of every franchise. Let's win. Right? No owner goes, losing's okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, that's why we see, right, so many changes within the NBA coaching ranks, so many players getting fired and all that. But this is a conversation that we can continue on going throughout the season. Is how are the Cavaliers going to react? Right? Is it Golden State's title to lose?
I'm hoping that since Kevin Durant left OKC, and as a fan, I know this sounds really puny, but I cannot stand Kevin Durant now. I feel like I want Golden State to go down. I want someone else in the finals. That's why I was really sad when DeMarcus went down with an injury. I was really hoping to see them. They had a chance of going to the finals. They were good.
Well, I think they had a long shot of going to the finals. I don't know if that, but at the same time, like if you matched up just nice with the Golden State Warriors, right? Anthony Davis, Garden, Kevin Durant. They're both long, both tall, both can move.
Right.
And DeMarcus Cousins could have had his way in there, and that's why I think this injury does hurt them. But we.
So let me ask you this: Who do you think will be in the finals this year?
I think Golden State is in for the West, and I think the Celtics are the sexy pick. But at the same time, as many of these finals in a row that LeBron James has made, I can't count him out.
Right.
Because the Cavaliers are going to do whatever they can to try to make him happy to keep him past this year.
Oh, yeah.
To keep him through free agency.
Right.
But at the same time, right, you kind of have to think of building for the future if LeBron leaves, right? Which is why I don't know that they get rid of that first-round pick.
Right.
Right? What could be a top 3 pick.
Right.
I don't think you get rid of it. So
I feel like the Rockets, I'm not a fan of the beard, but I feel like they have a really, really good chance of going to the finals this year.
So you think the Rockets could get past Golden State?
Yeah. I feel like that will be a good matchup. I will definitely throw that out there. I feel like it will be a good matchup between Steph and Chris, and then you got Klay Thompson and James Harden. Kevin Durant's by himself, but then you got how do you say his name? Ariza?
Trevor Ariza?
Yeah, Ariza. Yeah. I feel like those matchups will be really good and exciting to watch. I feel like that will be the most watched round of the finals.
Well, and I think everybody thinks that the Western Conference Finals is going to be Golden State and the Rockets. You can't count out OKC.
Oh no.
Prior to Boogie getting hurt, I would have said, "Don't count out the Pelicans. Don't sleep on them. They are finding their groove." But unfortunately, I think it is a Golden State Western Conference to lose. I think the path is there for the Celtics to make it.
Right.
But also, don't sleep on a team like Toronto. Right? Toronto's doing great.
Yeah, DeMar's been really good this year.
But we'll have to see where the Pistons go with this. But the thing for me, right, is can you even count out LeBron until he's not there, right? That's my biggest thing is until he's not there.
Well, I mean, it's like, since you've had such a streak of going to the finals, why count him out, I feel like he's always coming in clutch every final.
Right. So, as it stands right now, here's the Eastern Conference standings. You have the Celtics at number 1. The Raptors are 2. 3 is the Cavaliers. 4 is the Heat, and 5 is the Wizards. Now that's just the top 5.
Right.
If we go down, the Bucks are 6. All right. They just fired Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
Pacers are 7th, and right now 8th is the 76ers. But in 9th is the Pistons. So the Pistons clearly made this to try and get into the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
And to maybe have a super outside shot at making the playoffs.
They need a better point
not
guard.
only making the playoffs, but making the finals. But I just don't know if it's going to be enough for the Pistons. It might be enough to get them into the playoffs, but
I don't think they got a chance of going to the finals though.
And so that'll be the interesting thing to see. I think the Celtics and Raptors have the opportunities there, basically.
Oh yeah.
The Cavaliers are kind of like a wounded animal, right?
Pretty much.
It is there for the Celtics or the Raptors, or even the Wizards for that matter, right? Or,
they got John Wall.
the Heat have been quietly into the number 4 slot, but the Eastern Conference is wide open.
Oh yeah.
The West isn't, I don't think, wide open, but I think the door is kind of cracked.
I can agree with that.
Right, it's there for the Rockets to take it in the right situation.
Right.
I don't think the Thunder have enough to do it.
No, well, I just don't feel. I don't feel like as an OKC fan, I feel like they don't have the rhythm right now. I think they're currently on either a 6 or 7 game winning streak, which is so exciting and so fun to hear. But I feel like as an OKC fan, I don't feel like we have that momentum right now.
So, I think it is right now. It's unfortunately it's the Golden State Warriors' title to lose.
Pretty much.
I think that does kind of damage a little bit. At the same time, like everybody's going to be watching it to see who can take down the best team out there, right? To take down the Golden State Warriors,
right? And
that's kind of the narrative that's going to be driven through all this. Who can take them down? Who can take out the Warriors? Who can stop them? And so, with that, we'll kind of file this away for another time, for another episode of, who's going to make it into the finals. We still have a lot of time to play out, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
We're not even to the All-Star break yet.
Right.
We're encroaching on the trade deadline, but at the same time, we are we're going to get there, and we're going to be there before we know it. So we'll file this away and kind of probably bring this up a little bit more because the NBA it is relevant sports wise. It creates a lot of stories.
It's really interesting too. I mean,
and then now the time of social media, right? There's always something to talk about with it. So
always.
I think this has been a great first episode for us.
Oh yeah, totally.
Getting us started. If the easiest thing, if you enjoyed this episode, if you want to hear more, right? We are going to start off launching this onto iTunes and Stitcher. We will try to expand from there as we go on. But if you're in iTunes, do us a favor. Go hit the subscribe button. We're going to drop 2 episodes a week. We're going to drop 2 of these a week and try to drop them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will do our best to try and drop them then. But at the same time, Riley, how many stars should they give us to go give us a review?
I'm going to go with 5.
5. Not 4?
Nope.
Not 3?
Nope.
Not 2?
Nope.
Not 1?
I mean, I'm number 1. I'm just kidding. But no.
But we want that 5-star rating to help us shoot up the iTunes standings. So if you could do that for us, that'd be a great help.
We would love it if you would subscribe to us. Totally.
And in this upcoming couple days, we're going to get some social media set up, and we will let you know next time how you can get in contact with us, how you can let us know what you thought of this. So go subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and hey, even write us a review. It all helps. thank you for joining us on the very first episode of the R&D Sports Report.